Hey guys, Emma here, coming on today to talk a little bit about meth detox with y'all. What it's like, what to expect. I can really only speak from my personal experience mainly, and anecdotal experiences from people I know that have struggled with meth addiction, but mainly what I know is my own experience, but know that everyone has quite a different experience, with everything, but especially with coming off of meth. As I've mentioned before, it is quite difficult to get actual detox treatment for meth. What I did and what I know a lot of others have done is either lie or embellish your alcoholism to get yourself into a detox facility because detox is not covered by insurance for meth or cocaine or stimulants in general, which is pretty messed up. So yeah, it's got to be alcohol or benzos or opiates. Alcohol and benzos are substances that can actually kill you. The withdrawal can kill you, and opiates cannot, but it will make you feel like you're dying, and it's very well understood that medical intervention is very often necessary to survive, emotionally survive the horror that is withdrawal. And in my experience, meth withdrawal is quite different from opiate withdrawal, just from what I've experienced, but it is very awful. And I think that getting actual, like being in a detox facility is of great benefit when coming off of meth, primarily because it's really the most addictive drug there is. And having that physical separation to help you get through it is very important. I mean, for me, I was never able to actually get through withdrawal when trying to go through it on my own because the cravings get so visceral that I would just, be like, screw it, I'm gonna go get high again. But I think one of the main reasons why medical detox is very important for meth is because of the element of psychosis. Which is essentially a complete break from reality. It looks very much like paranoid schizophrenia, delusions, hallucinations, paranoia. That is something that almost half of people that are addicted to meth will experience. I was fortunate to not experience that, but it is incredibly common, and that's something that will get exacerbated often during withdrawal, and for a lot of people that it doesn't just go away when you stop using meth. It will continue on, and treatment is really, necessary for a lot of people, because how you can't navigate that on your own when you don't know what's really going on. You can't trust your own mind. To me, that's just a big no-brainer of why it would be unsafe. No, it's not going to kill you to detox from meth without medical, like a medical detox facility or support in that way. But it is just really hard and is of great benefit for so many reasons. I think it's a benefit when you're coming off of any substance, because these places will provide you the support that you need. They will help you, provide you resources, and often, get you to an inpatient treatment facility immediately, door to door, or try their best to make you do that. And if something were to go wrong, because, the removal of methamphetamine from one system isn't going to kill you like it could with alcohol and benzos. There's a ton of complications that can arise, and I've heard about it killing people. Because your heart, as I've talked about a lot, your heart and your kidneys are completely and totally destroyed, essentially, over time, and that's something that can, I've heard of people that just die in their sleep following that kind of usage, even after the drugs have been removed. Things like that do happen. It's not super common at all, but I have heard of it happening enough where people just die during detox, out of nowhere. Their body just gives out. That would be really great if you have, an RN coming in to check on you throughout the night, right? I will tell you my experience detoxing from meth. I went to a detox facility, which is like a residential facility where you're, locked down there, typically for about a week. It will vary a lot depending on what you're using. But if you are coming in there and it is known that you don't have an alcohol problem or opiates or benzos, like, if you get in, you're not going to be there for a week, maybe 3 days. That's what I've typically seen from working in treatment. I mean, I worked at the detox facility, the first one that I'm going to talk about. I worked there as an employee, which was an incredibly cool experience. But you see stuff like that, and it's really heartbreaking. So I was an alcoholic. So I didn't have, I wasn't pretending like I was drinking when I wasn't. However, I knew I didn't need a medical detox where you were, weaned off of the alcohol to prevent you from having seizures and, from ultimately dying. I knew I wasn't going to have delirium tremens or anything like that. So, I mean, I was definitely drinking to excess, but I was an alcoholic years back, with just alcohol and no drugs, and I was drinking a lot more than I was when I was doing meth. I was drinking purely just to try to bring down my anxiety a little bit, because I mean, I was addicted to meth and crack, and I have extremely high anxiety sober. So, yeah. And weed, to me, didn't have a good interaction there. So that's why I was consuming alcohol. However, when I went to detox the final time, at that point, I had stopped drinking because, as I've mentioned, I was having massive water retention. And it's funny, I was so afraid and I did not want to die so badly, but I could not, it was the meth that was causing that, but I couldn't stop doing that. But the only thing I could really force myself to do with my willpower was to stop drinking alcohol, because I was hoping that would help with the swelling. So when I went to detox the last time, I knew I was not going to test positive for alcohol, and I'll tell you what happened in just a moment. I got very lucky, essentially. So the first time I went to detox, this is the first time I'd been to detox ever. I mean, for all of the years of my addiction, I had never been to a detox facility. I was always detoxing on my own because, as I mentioned, I was primarily a stimulant addict. But typically I would go the withdrawal route, detoxing by myself, alone in a room for a week. So, with that being my experience, it's a lot more pleasant to be in a facility. And it was literally just because I couldn't stop. I couldn't make myself stop. I tried everything. I couldn't. I mean, once I got to a certain point, I would just give in and do more meth, and I could not break that cycle. So that's why I went to detox. So yeah, I exacerbated my alcohol use. Not very much, but just enough to make it so that way I was in. So the meth detox is primarily sleep. I'm just trying to use my own experience to create a general, give you a picture of what meth detox often looks like. The biggest thing that will happen is you will sleep, and I'm talking about comatose sleep. You're going to need a ton of sleep, and there's really nothing that you're going to be able to do to fight that. You're going to have to sleep, and there's absolutely no other way. I mean, as I've said before, the sleep that you steal from your body by using meth, your body wants that sleep back, and it's going to get it back. And how much you sleep during detox depend on how, the extent you've been sleep deprived, how long you've been awake, and how long you've been using meth. So yeah, that's really the predominant factor. My recommendation, if you're going through this, is to sleep as much as you possibly can, because the super unpleasant part of meth detox is the visceral depression that comes from having no dopamine at all. It's a horrible feeling that you don't want to feel, and it's part of why you avoid the detox process altogether. I actually found Adderall detox, which I did, by myself, to be a lot worse than meth detox, because Adderall is less potent. So you're not going to sleep as much as you would with meth, and so you're going to be awake more for the periods of depression that are really, really dangerous and soul crushing. that is another reason why I think medical detox is preferable, because of the fact that a lot of people are going to experience really not so safe thoughts, and that being in a safe place with professionals would be ideal in that situation. But yeah, with meth, you're going to sleep a lot, and you're also going to eat a lot. You know, yeah, meth restricts your appetite. It keeps you awake. That's pretty much all it will do for you in the long run, is those things. Well, except for me, in the end, I kept eating. My appetite actually got a little stronger for a period. It was very weird. But anyway, that's what you can predominantly expect, is sleeping for very long periods of time, and then during the brief periods you're awake, stuffing your face with a bunch of food. And yeah, so my first detox, that is what happened. I've actually gone back and like looked at the notes for my detox, and I was asleep pretty much the entire time. I was like out cold for 5 days. So that's a really long time to sleep. I mean, obviously I would get up briefly and go to the bathroom and then like shovel my face with food, but I barely even remember. It was very brief. I was mostly just sleeping the entire time. And yeah, I would run downstairs and grab a bunch of snacks and put them in my shirt and then scurry back upstairs. Like, I just didn't want to interact with anybody. I had no motivation, nothing. I mean, it's a very, very scary place to be in, but I promise you it doesn't last. So I want to say 2 weeks is the acute detox phase, but especially the first week is really going to be where you feel the majority of those symptoms. After that, it's like you're going to have a lot of brain fog, like confusion, like just apathy, like just not motivated, not awake or energized in any form. I have a video about post-acute withdrawal that I'll link down below. But past that acute withdrawal phase, you're going to experience a lot of that drawn out, just not feeling energy, needing to take a lot of naps and sleep for longer every night, difficulty with exercise or exerting large amounts of energy, difficulty paying attention, difficulty retaining information, keeping track of things, etc., etc. Essentially, you're going to see like this surge in like ADHD like symptoms because of this dopamine depletion. But yeah, during the acute phase, the detox process is predominantly going to be sleep. Just let your body sleep. I know it's scary initially, but you feel so much better after you actually get some sleep, because sleep is important for everything that your body does. And I mean everything. Like, once you can actually catch back up on that sleep, you can think again. You're not just a zombie staring at the wall. Like, you can actually think and retain information and have a life again. So I promise you, it is so worth it. And yeah, so with meth, you're going to see a lot less of those physical withdrawal symptoms that you think about with opiate withdrawal, where there's this like all these gastrointestinal problems. I mean, just like very, the most sick that you can possibly feel, kind of. Like, you don't necessarily have that a lot with meth withdrawal. But I mean, you definitely have, for me, I experienced very uncomfortable body aches and like twinges of pain throughout my body. I think a lot of that was because, I mean, I was awake for so long that, I mean, my body would feel like it was on fire from it telling me, it was screaming at me, like, go to sleep. Like, every part of me was just aching and burning, and it was like, but the drug just keeps you awake. So you're gonna have some of that oftentimes. Yeah, but my first detox experience, as I said, I slept almost the entire time. I didn't go to any groups. I didn't participate in much of the active treatment. I just slept. And I actually had a very weird event when I got there. It was like, essentially, by the time I made it to detox, I was like, I'm gonna pass out any second, and I'm gonna go into a coma, and I'm just gonna sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep forever. And they were like trying to give me, I had prescribed sleep meds that I took for years, but I hadn't been taking them the entire time I've been using, because I didn't ever intentionally go to sleep. And then they were also going to give me like, the benzodiazepine taper for the alcohol, and like all these PRN meds. And I was like, I really don't need all of that. Which goes to tell you that I knew that it was dangerous, because I was not one to say no to drugs, but I was just like, I don't think that's a good idea. Essentially, they gave it to me anyway, and yeah, guess what? It was not good. I just remember laying on the couch in like the family room area where the TV is, and I guess I like just rolled off the couch and was completely unresponsive. And then they did some sternum rubs, and then I guess I had a seizure. I just know I woke up in the hospital. I woke up there for like a second, and then I went back to sleep. And then I feels like I blinked and I was back at the detox. So I have like almost zero recollection of that. It was essentially just way too much meds. So, and then the second detox, at this point I was a lot more desperate, and my disease had really come full force, and I was having a lot of physical problems. The detox facility I went to was not very nice. That first one I mentioned was really wonderful and truly like a place I felt so lucky that I got to be at and then work at it, you know, later on. This other one I went to was not so good. Felt a lot more jail-like, you know. Oh God! And they cold turkey me off all my meds, which, you know, I was on an SSRI antidepressant. So while I was in detox, I started having basically essentially brain zaps. Really uncomfortable symptoms. SSRI withdrawal for me is like some of the most uncomfortable of the withdrawals to me, because I've had that happen twice where I've been pulled off of it in a medical setting just because it's like this protocol they have of like they want to see how I react, but like they'll pull me off the highest dose of these meds, which is very dangerous. That can result in massive problems, and it should never happen. So every time it would be like I would beg and beg and beg and scream and like become combative, which is not me, until they would finally give it to me. So that happened again this time, and surprisingly enough, so I've been vegan for a very long time. I've been vegan for almost as long as I have eaten meat and dairy products, because I went vegan really young. So when I had said I'm vegan, it wasn't like, I prefer vegan food. It was like, you know, I can no longer digest these foods because I've not eaten them in so long, and they were not willing to work with me at all. So I was coming off of meth, and I was starving. You know, you want to eat literally anything and everything, and there was like nothing I could eat. So I knew it was going to be awful. But I decided, I guess I'm going to have to eat dairy for these next 7 days. And, it's kind of funny now. My poor roommate was, you know, gagging, coughing, opening the windows, getting fans in there, asking to switch rooms, like screaming at me, "You gotta stop farting." And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, when you're vegan for as long as I've been, you become lactose intolerant. So I was eating pizza and ice cream and stuff. It doesn't taste good to me, but it doesn't matter when you're coming off of meth. I mean, I didn't touch any meat because that would have been, if I had touched the meat, I would have shat myself. But yeah, I had a lot of GI symptoms, and it was just not a nice facility. But I was so grateful just to have some relief and to notice some improvement in my health. Like, it wasn't, you know, once I had slept, and I didn't sleep as long this time. I guess it's because it was because I wasn't able to stay awake as long at that point, so I only slept for about 2 days straight. But then it was, you know, a lot of napping throughout the day, and just noticing, like, being able to breathe again, like, not having this chest pain and this, like, all the heart symptoms, and like just noticing my body begin to slowly regulate itself more was really wonderful. And I did feel really relieved to be there, even though it was a really not so nice place. And the staff there were really rude, and yeah, but it was a detox. Oh yes, and so this time, because I didn't drink alcohol, I got really lucky. Well, essentially a couple weeks before I went to detox, I had accidentally switched, like, you know, the supplies you use to inject yourself, with this homeless man that I let live with me for a while. And we couldn't even see drugs with the with the naked eye, but there was like fentanyl residue on it. And I could tell right away because I'm not a fentanyl addict. Couldn't even see it with my naked eye, but I got pretty high. So essentially I started doing fentanyl that were still in such small amounts you could barely see it with your own eye, but I was getting high off of it every day. But I wasn't positive that that's what it was. I just figured, and the addict in me was like, well, maybe this will help calm me down. I was never a fan of opiates, but I was like, I'm not drinking anymore, I gotta calm down. So I got really lucky. I just wasn't sure if I was imagining it. I had no idea what was real or what was not. But turns out I did test positive for fentanyl upon arrival, so that got me into detox. And they suspected that I was like an opiate addict and that I was lying. And I was like, I swear, like, why would I be lying about this to y'all? Like, no, I don't need Suboxone. Like, I don't need Suboxone. Yeah. So both times it took me about 2 weeks to feel somewhat normal and like having a somewhat normal energy. I was very tired for about 90 days afterwards, but it starts to be like, oh, I can keep my eyes open for, like 20 minutes consecutively, or like, oh, maybe I can watch like half of a TV show before I conk out. And then it's, it starts to get wider and wider until you have a more normal experience, which is really wonderful. So, but yeah, it's a lot of eating, a lot of trying to nourish your body back to health and just letting it, let yourself sleep. Like it's a lot of just regenerating slowly. But the last thing I want to say is I've seen so many times through working in treatment and being a client, people coming into treatment that are denied detox for meth because of what I mentioned, with insurance and all of that. And then they're sent to inpatient programs, which, if you don't know, inpatient programs are highly structured. They are for people that have completed detoxification. So you're up at like 7 a.m. You have a very tight schedule. You have to be at, classes all day long, kind of meant to mimic a work schedule. And then, you have various physical activities and you go to meetings, and basically your day is completely structured. That is impossible for somebody to do when they're coming off meth. All that those people need to do is sleep. But I have watched people be forced to do that, and I've seen one person actually suffer through it. Like she still could physically get up and get on the van, but I could just see her eyes were glazed over and she was asleep, pretty much any second she could get. But almost every time I saw that, the people had to be actually just pulled out and transported to another facility because they were like non-responsive. Like it's not like, oh, wake up, come on, let's go, and they're just gonna get up, because you only have that kind of control at that point. Your body is like either more meth or sleep. So yeah, just that's my experience with meth detox. I don't have experience with the psychosis elements of it, so I'm not the right person to speak on that, but know that that's a very real thing, and I think that's a big reason why professional help is very helpful with this. But yeah, it does not last forever. I promise you, it doesn't. And it's honestly shocking how like at that 2-week mark, you're like, I feel so much better than I ever thought I could feel. Like going into it, I was like, I've fried my brain. The dopamine's all gone. It's never going to come back. I'm never going to be me again. Like everything is going to be bleak and hopeless, and I'm going to have anhedonia forever, which is an inability to feel pleasure. And that was not the case for me. There was months where things were harder, but it was never like I had a complete lack of pleasure or positive emotions that whole time. It was more of I'm adjusting to I need to sleep a lot more. I need to nourish my body. Like my body's going to gain weight. I'm going to need to sleep more, and I'm not going to be my most active self, most social self. Like those pieces fall back together, but it takes some time. So just please don't give up if you're on that journey. I promise you it does get better, and it's faster than you think it's going to. Like, because you really, and that time you feel like without meth you're nothing. But eventually you get to be like, you know what, I'm taking my power back. I don't need you anymore. I don't. Like, I get to be me now, and all the things that I thought I needed meth to do, I can actually do better now. That's the thing. So much of it is just this illusion and this feeling of doing better that's not actually real. So yeah, I think that's all I've got today. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I'm going to be posting a new video every week for you guys. And let me know if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, any of those things down below. And I will see you all next time. Take care of yourselves.